Does anyone have any context for the bean protocol or any of that? I know I've mentioned soluble fiber in the program, and I believe in the section on stuck stone or one of those sections, there's even it says like to eat beans. But I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole super much, and I haven't really been advocating that to you guys. But I've been learning about it lately, and I've also jumped on the legume train. I'm not really doing, we're calling them beans, but they're black lentils that I'm currently eating. But okay, so if nobody really has much experience with it, I'll just kind of give like a brief overview. So, Karen Hurd is a regular person. Well, she was also worked for the military, and she's a biochemist, I believe, by education. And her daughter, at 18 months old, got severely poisoned by a pesticide that was used in their house to kill some kind of bug or something in the carpet. And the child started seizing and became extremely ill. Um, and all the doctors that she took her child to said, sorry, like she's been poisoned by this severe neurochemical pesticide, and like there's not really any hope she's gonna die, basically. And this woman was like, she like worked in a poison control, or she worked in some sort of lab where they were like testing biological things. And so she wasn't totally sold on those answers. And so she started researching. She started researching, and she eventually came to some kind of weird concoction that she started giving her child that had soluble fiber and like vitamins in it. And her child rapidly recovered and, eventually lived a very, is still living a good life, totally healthy. And so then she started basically helping other people, and found out that many conditions she was able to help with this protocol. And what's so cool to me is it really come here, come here. It really just goes super well. It doesn't contradict anything about what we're doing, because um she was really into like, well, what is the mechanism of detoxification of the body? And came to the same conclusions. The liver is king here, and we really, really, that's a focal point for us, if especially if we're trying to recover from hardcore toxins, right? Like that's the liver is the one who is in, helping neutralize that, giving us any chance of making it, right? Neutralizing things out of the blood. Now, here's the problem with our current day affairs is that the body is awesome. I don't know. It isn't maybe necessarily have built its mechanisms for the level of onslaught of toxicity that we currently have, and in conjunction with the diet and nutritional sort of profile that we're working with. So the body has this mechanism because bile is expensive to make. And so the body recirculates it. It's called like enterohepatic recirculation. And this happens right at the end of the digestive tract in the colon. And it is the most of the bile, like they're saying, basically 95% of the bile is reuptaked at that point and brought back into the body to use again. Now, but what happens, because the liver, the way that it gets the toxicity out is through the bile. So it does all this, like, it does all this work of like breaking things down, neutralizing it, packaging it, making it safe, all of that. It puts it into the bile, gets it out of the bloodstream into the bile. Then it's in the digestive system, where it's kind of safe and sort of packaged. But then as soon as it gets reuptaked in that enterohepatic vein area down at the base, it gets back into the bloodstream. Can you believe that? So all the work that the liver has done, it has to then do again on the same substances, the same part, the same pieces of matter and chemicals and hormones and all of that. So as you can imagine, if we continually receive or create, because a lot of this toxicity is actually our own metabolic waste, including a lot of hormone stuff, it's kind of like we're just adding on to it and not taking it out. So you can imagine how it would get overwhelming. Now, I personally I'm like, well, why would the body do that? Like it should just take it out. So, but I don't know, I am ignorant to the body's like full majestic plans and when and how this was developed. But we're just kind of starting to realize that at this point, with our current conditions, getting 5% of it out is not really enough. And so, but they say also that sometimes you can't even tolerate the bean protocol if you haven't done a little bit of liver flushing. So, like, you guys are in a prime place to consider integrating some of this this opportunity. So, what soluble fiber does is that it binds to the bile, and therefore the bile is not able to be reabsorbed, and it leaves out the bowels. So then the body has to make new bile. So we know that we need electrolytes for that. We need choline for that. We need some building materials for that. But we've addressed some of that in the program and just in making sure your diets are, getting better. But basically, soluble fiber is a way to make sure that you're escorting fully out of the body some of that toxicity. And this can break the loop, break the cycle of recirculating and being overwhelmed by toxicity. So definitely people have seen really big improvements with this. For, allergies or overreactivity. And another place where I'm seeing a lot of positive sort of stories is in the like hormonal area. And this is a really big deal because we make a lot of hormones, and not just the sex hormones, like estrogen, progesterone, blah, 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 all of those, but also all of the adrenal hormones. So the stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, all of that. Those are actually, if they're recirculated, they can like stimulate more stress, even though you didn't have a situation that caused your body to make those hormones, right? You're just like, oh, I'm just tasting cortisol again, So I know I'm a little excited. I'm a little all over the place, but the female hormonal things where we have this extra, a lot of people are having issues with the excess estrogen, the xenoestrogens now that we've introduced, and basically this soluble fiber incorporated into your daily diet is a way to start finally siphoning those hormones out. So if anyone is having, any perimenopausal or menopausal or any of that area of issues, this could be really helpful. So I just want to make sure that I share it with you. You know what I mean? I'm not, yeah, I just want to share it, even though I'm like pretty early in the state, I'm pretty early in my sort of experimenting with it, but I also don't see really a reason that it could be harmful to try. So I think generally I think 3 months is sort of like the minimal recommended period. Not that doing it for any amount of time won't be beneficial, possibly, but I wouldn't kind of like say, oh, it hasn't helped me if it hasn't been 3 months. Some people need to really be doing it for longer. So, it also, I'm not sure, you can decide how deeply you want to go into her protocol. I'm not sure I agree with everything that she is putting out there. But one of the main things, in order to do the bean protocol is that, okay, and you could use psyllium husk is the other really great soluble fiber. So, um, those are kind of your main options, legumes, beans, or psyllium husk. They're just vastly higher in soluble fiber than what you can get in vegetables or anything like that. So she also is really, really anti-caffeine and stimulants, including sugar. So if you're working on the hormones thing, those would be really, you could look at her recommendations around that. But in general, in terms of if we're just trying to get more soluble fiber in to bind the toxic bile and get it out, then the recommended is 3 to 6 servings per day away from, especially away from saturated fat. So it's kind of almost like less of like, oh, I'm eating, hummus with my meal or whatever. It's like, it's a little bit more like almost taking it therapeutically. So, and I haven't not worked up to 6 servings a day for sure. It's really, it's new for me, but it's almost like she even says like for really sick people, you could just have like a teaspoon every 20 minutes, or you could have a tablespoon once an hour or something like that. So it's like there's something in there that's grabbing onto the bile. So me, I've started with black lentils. Um, Lentils are a GAPS friendly food. And since I have had trouble with beans in the past and I don't really eat beans, it just seemed like a gentle way to start. But if you have like a preferred bean or you tolerate something, you may also be surprised. Oh, bird just hit the window. You might be surprised that since you have been liver flushing, that you are actually able to digest legumes better. I have found that for me, been surprised about that. And then the other thing is that there will be a period of adjustment, a few weeks maybe where there's more gas and or digestive issues, but that's actually partially, I was just reading today, it's like there's a garbage disposal that's been like filled up with food and it hasn't been running. And then you start running it when you start eating the beans. And so it's like it gets kind of gnarlier before it gets clear. And this has to do with the toxicity coming out and the microbiome changing in relation to this amount of soluble fiber. So, yeah, that would be sort of like the most basic. I think that would be sort of the most basic recommendation would be like every day for a few months, trying to incorporate 3 to 6 servings of soluble fiber into the day away from fat, because it will bind with fat instead of the bile if you do that. Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm going to be doing. I already am off of caffeine and sugar, but it is interesting, and I don't feel like convinced and educated enough in her theories to like say that I'm gonna go off of fruit currently. But yeah, I'm just gonna kind of see how it goes with the lentils for now. And yeah, does anyone have any questions about that? I know that was kind of a lot. It's like an impromptu lesson.
When you say servings, and also how would you do it? Like, would you just put salt in it? Because also you talked about electrolytes, and I know there's the electrolyte drink. Um, Personally, I feel like the electrolyte drink is great if I'm feeling a little bit off, or but I feel like I don't know, it just feels like a lot to just do it automatically. But adding salt, maybe, I feel like I'm adding more salt in general. I think that's helping me to just things, or just even if I'm not feeling well, sometimes I'll just have a little bit of salt in my mouth and it helps. And so with the bean protocol in between meals, when you say a serving, how much is a serving, and would you add salt to it, or like how would you make it? Like just
Yeah, that's a great question. Part of the bean protocol as well that I didn't mention is drinking more water, especially at the earlier stages when it's like all the gears are sort of getting into action and there's this gas and the toxicity is coming out. She really encourages like high quantities of water drinking. So I mean, she says like 3/4 of a gallon per day or something. Um, I think part of it is that the soluble fiber is like there needs to be extra water, I think, some more water. I've been noticing I'm more thirsty, but it's like hard for me to get into not, I mean, besides the fact that I live in a van, it's cold out, and so my water is cold, which is not a way that I prefer to drink water. Um, but yeah, I just need to get a little bit more into the rhythm of, oh, I'm gonna start doing more water, at multiple times of the day or whatever. Um, I if the adrenal cocktail is like too much for you, then just do the salt water. So like I would include like, and she recommends warm or hot water to drink, which I also am a huge I support that, cold water. It's rough because it the body has to warm it up, and over time that's wearing, that's depleting your internal energy reserves, your yang energy reserves, one might say. So, so yeah, warm water, hot water, just add some salt or even just put salt in your mouth, drink your water, whatever. Um, that's fine. The adrenal cocktail, it's like I really want you to know about it. And if you can work it into your routine, I don't I think it's extreme, I think it's great. I don't think it's harmful. I think it's really great. I think it can support a lot of things, but at different so like I have lemon juice and salt in this. So to me that's like a pared down, it's like a sort of simplified one. And I used to just do lemon water. So I've sort of added the salt. So that can be easy enough. Whatever you can do, water. And so yeah, the beans, um, like I said, I'm just doing lentils and they're pressure cooked, they're soaked and then pressure cooked. And I am adding salt. Now my friends are just eating them without salt. I'm kind of like, why? You know? But the interesting thing is when you eat beans kind of like more therapeutically and less like a meal, I don't know, they're actually kind of fascinatingly satisfying. They're like, and I am like not a legume fan. Like even when I first heard about this whole thing, I was like, that food is so pointless. I'm not gonna waste my calories eating beans. But anyways, we're all able to allow new things in and try new things. So I'm actually finding myself surprised by how kind of enjoyable and satisfying they are. So yes, I'm salting them. Some people don't even salt them. And the liquid is good too, because you know how garbanzo beans, like in the cans, they actually have a name for the liquid. It's called aquafaba, and people use it to make like weird, like egg substitute things, right? And why is that possible? It's because of all that soluble fiber in there. So just know that in this particular case, we're actually going for that weird stuff. So the liquids from cooking your beans or legumes is also desirable. And she even says like focus on that, have that stuff. So like I said, there's plenty more for me to learn about it, and I will be learning about it, and I'll probably do some kind of like other kind of master class on it at some point, do a longer sharing when I'm a little bit more educated. But I just felt like I wanted to share it with you guys because it's so easy, it's so cheap, and it's a way to possibly really shorten the suffering of your experience of the recycling toxicity. And I just know that that's what we want, like, my gosh, what if I could have less headaches, like, so yeah, that's what inspired me to share with you now. And so water, more beans. If you're doing the beans or the soluble fiber, make sure you're also doing more water. And you can have salt with them, just don't cook them with oil, basically. And then in terms of serving size, I so so I have heard that a serving could be as small as a tablespoon. I have also heard that if you're really sick and it's hard to tolerate these things, that actually you want to start with quite little, like a bean or like a teaspoon, and just continue building up from there. So I would say there's probably not a set serving to start, start small and see how you do. I think this is a really good tip for all the things, especially when we're dealing with such toxicity. And remember to up your water as you increase the beans. And I think she says eventually it's like, I can't, just the palm, I think. It's like palm size serving, 3 to 6 times per day. But yeah, we just do the best we can, right? Like we can either go full hog into it. You can easily find the information you need online to follow her full protocol if you want. Give it a shot, or you just aim, you know that that's the aim and you do the best you can. Like right now, because I eat so much saturated fat, I'm eating like pudding and milk and sausage and whatever, at my meals. So I have only been getting in like 2 servings of lentils per day. Um, so I'm still working. I'm still working my way on to that program. Yeah, any other questions about this before we move on?
I just need to get better at how I eat all the way around. I'm not afraid of that. So this, I love beans. That makes me very so happy that I can use them as part of my detox protocol. So
Um, yeah. Well, Nikki, I really want to support that goal for you too. And I wonder like what if you wanted to share it all, totally don't feel any pressure, but like what's the area or what's the hang up or or even like what are you wanting that you haven't quite met in your diet?
so I think that I don't mind sharing. It's a lot of automated things, right? One day is busy or um, things aren't conveniently right there. Whatever's conveniently right there, and I can grab and I can, have it made. That makes it easier. I work in a restaurant, so I eat there a lot. So I'm always eating out, essentially, even though, like, you know what I mean? I try to do things like salads, but for the most part, like, I might, sometimes, some nights I just have croutons, you know what I mean? From the crouton.
Mm.
And, then I get home at 9:30 at night and I haven't eaten anything through the dinner hour and I'm starving. And so then my husband, it's his also getting home and he doesn't care. He's very junk food junkie, And so he's like, I threw a pizza in for us. And now I've had a frozen pizza. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I tried to food prep. And by the third day, I'm like, I hate this food. You know, I'm
Oh,
angry. Like, so
like you get
I've
sick of
tried all
like
the,
you get sick of the food you've made? Is that what you mean?
yeah. So what I'll do is I'll just like, I'll make a big meal and then have leftovers and then I'm okay. Cause it's a leftover. It's not that I put it in, I don't know what it is psychologically, but a lot of times too, like I don't think it's any, I love food. I'll eat it all. I like beans, I like vegetables, I like healthy things. It's just I don't know where I'm going. It's just all the automatic things, right? Because I guess I'm in survival.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, so many people can relate to that, Nikki, because I'm staying with a couple friends right now in northern Minnesota, and she has been a stay-at-home mom for their 4-year-old. Feeding the family is honestly like almost a full-time job for her, you know,
Yeah.
doing gaps, preparing ferments, and her child was really sick, and so it was like full on making like she had histamine issues, so it was like making broth, but then having to freeze it immediately and like thawing only small portions because nothing could be a day old, or like, I mean, it just is like there's a range of like how challenging food preparation can be, but on all the levels, like this is part of why I eat the way that I do, which I consider extremely simple. Like the way I eat is strange to most people because most people are like really used to like these like full course, like multi-part meals or like, vegetables and all the preparation for vegetables is a lot, it can like I did medical medium for 5 years, I was like making salads like 3 times a day or whatever, like lots of food prep. And I just don't, I just like can't really do that. And I'm lucky to not have to be, well, lucky is one way to put it, like I have been too sick to work regular jobs. And so, um, I have the space to take care of myself in my environment, which a lot of people don't. And so, what a tricky situation. And it's like, if you're exhausted and you don't feel that well, do you feel like spending all your free time preparing food for yourself? You don't even really have free time, and that free time is not, that's not what you want to do. Or it feels like having it, it's more work that you don't really have the energy for, right?
Yeah, there's no energy left. Like I'm
Yeah,
completely depleted.
there's no energy left. It's so
It's
sad.
like a sick cycle
Yeah,
of,
it's a sick
you know,
cycle. And like honestly, like so much of our society is stuck in that. And then not to
hmm
mention that food is expensive, especially healthy food that you then have to prepare. Gosh, it's like so
yeah.
crazy when you could just go buy like some crap that is actually cheaper, way easier, right?
hmm
So it's a tricky situation. So one thing I want to ask is Instant Pot. Do you have an Instant Pot?
I do.
Okay. You have an Instant Pot. Great. I feel like that one is like one of the keys for liberating yourself out of the food prep problems. So the lentils in there. So what's cool about making this bean protocol or lentils or whatever is you soak your beans, pressure cook them, right? Soak, rinse, pressure cook them in your Instant Pot, and then put them in like jars or whatever Tupperware you like to use. Like make 4 cups of beans, make way more than you need, and then stick them in containers and stick them in your fridge, or if you really need to, stick them in your freezer. But what I'm saying is then you carve out a quarter of the jar or whatever, and or like every time you need a serving, you just take some out of there. And again, this isn't like, oh, this is my whole meal. It's my most beautiful meal, No,
Right.
it's just like bean sustenance, bean medicine, which could be lentils, which also happen to be quite satisfying. And that, like, just pepper that in as something that's like a go-to, like it's already done. I can just have a bowl of this, I can just have a few big spoons on my like 5-minute break, you know what I mean? Whatever it is. If you chew them enough in your mouth, even if they were cold, they can become warm because they're like so creamy and starchy that I kind of find them easy to chew in my mouth. So do they even need to be warmed up? You know? So in terms of adding at least one grab and go food to your, and like honestly soaking and pushing the buttons on the Instant Pot and then putting them in containers, it's a pretty low, it's not nothing, you know. I can acknowledge it is not nothing, but it's not the same as having to cut up all those
No.
vegetables and like
Yeah.
do all those things. So you know, I can't
Is
like,
there a certain like should we be buying organic? Do we have to worry about GMOs and when it comes to beans and mass produced beans and stuff like that?
I mean, I would always worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
And beans, I guess, like can be fairly, they pull nutrition from the soil, you know, and they could have good minerals in them. Not that our soil has much of that, but um yeah, I mean, since you're eating them to reduce toxicity in your body, I'd say get organic ones. They're honestly, um, you know, find whatever is the cheapest of all of the organic beans and lentils, you know. I mean, they're not, I mean, get back to me if it seems if it's like if they're a crazy expense in your
Oh yeah, no, that's not. I just was wondering, like, because I know I have a lot of beans in my cabinet right now, but I don't know if I've bought them organically. So I'm just thinking about what I could do right now, you know?
oh, eat what you have. Eat what you
Yeah.
have. Yeah. Totally. Because here's it, I mean, if it's binding with the toxicity, it's like, okay, again, we're doing the best we can. If you have it, that's food that you could just open and start eating, you know?
Yep.
And but maybe it's just a paradigm shift a little bit of like, oh, I can just snack on beans. Like no one told me I should be snacking
Yeah.
on beans, you know?
That's beautiful.
Cool. And like make them salty, like make them, or even put
Yeah.
spices in them if you want. I mean, I just do what's easy. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm already in my mind thinking of all the ways I'm going to cook the beef.
nice. Just try to keep the
Yeah.
oil and the fat away from them to get the most out of to get the most therapeutically out of what we're trying to do with them. I would love to
Okay.
hear, Nikki, from you like in a couple of weeks, like if you've been able to incorporate that. You know, I really
Okay.
want to continue to support you with feeling good about your diet. And I know we can't do that all at once. And so that's why I'm just like, how about you try this one thing and then get back to me on
Okay.
if you're able to implement that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Fabian?
Um, Couple things. One, how important is pressure cooking specifically? Because I did hear there's something about pressure cooking with beans that's important, but I don't have a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say is if you have a stock pot like that, Nikki, I mean, you can always also make meals like, you know, like in when you do have a little bit of free headspace, kind of plan a meal, and then it's very fast to just put the ingredients, put it on go, and then when you come home at night, late at night, it's warm, it's ready, and you can just, you know, have a really healthy meal at your fingertips.
Yeah. It would be smart to have something in a machine that was going to go while you were gone and would still be warm and hot when you got home. That would be awesome because, um, yeah, because time is probably of the essence when you come home because, A, you don't, you know, you want to eat sooner so that your body has a chance to digest it before going to bed, and you're hungry and kind of desperate, you know. So maybe if there was something there in there that was warm, you might just give in and eat that, you know? I love that. Thank you, Fabian. And your question. Okay, so for you, I mean, for anyone that's just starting getting back into beans, I kind of recommend starting on the lentil side because they are like significantly less distressing digestively than beans can be. But and lentils, I know you don't need to pressure cook. you know? I mean, I think beans you can cook too. And I would just really make sure you soak them long enough. So all of these, there's like charts available probably online that you could find that would tell you like, okay, 8 hours soaking for this kind of bean and then this long of cooking. I was never really able to crack the bean codes until I had a pressure cooker, because it just can be a long cook. But again, like make sure you do a night, like an overnight soak or whatever on whatever beans you're doing. Rinse that out again and then do it. And then there's something about beans where like if you cook them with salt, sometimes it doesn't cook properly. So just to be safe, I usually cook my beans with just the water. And then like salt it once they're cooked, if that makes sense.
And what is the thing about the pressure cooker? I can't remember. Like, what is it that it does as opposed to just cooking?
Well, it's really high pressure and high heat. And so like if you imagine how dry a bean is and how dense, it's like you need to make sure that it gets all the way into the center of the bean. Otherwise you have that like kind of like yeah, just problematic sort of like unpacked some kind of condensed starch in there. And so the pressure kind of helps force it into the beans. So that's why also like the cooking times of pressure cooking are just way lower for beans. So it's like just makes it a little more manageable. But yeah, I mean people have been cooking beans for eons, right?
Because I have a slow cooker and I like beans and don't, I mean, I feel like I'm okay when I eat them for the most part, but I like to just cook them overnight,
Hmm. Yeah.
even sometimes even longer than overnight. So that would be okay. Like that would be okay.
Yeah, and maybe I'll look into that, and if I find contraindication for that, I'll let you know, but I think that should be fine. I mean, I think as long as they're cooked and you're tolerating them okay. Do you have a preferred bean that you do that with in the overnight cooker?
I like the navy beans.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I mean, I put, other stuff in there. Also seaweed, a little bit of seaweed
Yeah.
and vegetables. And is that okay? I mean, with that, as long as there's no fat, and I don't usually put fat in while I'm cooking them. I do like to put olive oil over it, but I could not do that. Is it okay to eat them with rice if you're not, I mean, to just put them in your meals, just
Yep.
not non-fatty meal?
Yep. On a non-fatty meal. Yep. You can have lean protein with it as well, she recommends.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just skip the olive oil, just at least as you're using them therapeutically. It's not to say you couldn't have a fatty bean meal if you just wanted to, but in terms of what we're kind of trying to accomplish here.
Okay, and you
Yeah,
had
vegetables are definitely part of her protocol. What was
so
your question?
it's all fat because you had said at one point at the beginning it's saturated fats, which I think olive oil is not, but it doesn't matter. It's any oil, any fat.
Um, yeah, I was pretty much any fat. Um, I mean, some is okay, but um, I'm pretty sure I was reading olive oil. I think olive oil is like one of the fats that she likes, but in terms of so like in your general diet, basically.
Beans. Okay.
Um, and then and then that still the beans are just kind of we're just wanting less fat with them because they're binding fat soluble things. Yeah, so yeah, the unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature. Um, so olive oil is that. Um, maybe those ones aren't as bound up by the beans. Um, but just to play it safe, I would try to at least have some beans per day that are away from fats.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're continuing to come do this because it's great work.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you so much. It's been really great. It
Yay.
definitely launched me on a whole new journey, I feel like. I'm really hopeful.
Yeah. Yay. So thanks for being awesome. And Nikki, thanks for keep coming back. Love you.
Yep. Love you too.
And I wish you luck with getting some more snacks and some more sustenance that is made by you and that is simple ingredients, you know. It is cool to feel a difference when we pull back our energy from just like eating all the things made by other people, you know, and we
Hmm.
like you know, your energy is so special, Nikki, and the work you do. So it's like give yourself the opportunity to receive that energy from yourself by like preparing at least something for your nourishment, you know?
I love that. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's your vibration that you get to, you know, that you get to learn from, basically.
I love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, blessings. Have a good rest of your weekend, everybody.